Okay, welcome everyone. It's so great to see you today, and we thank you so much for joining us today to learn about human trafficking in the workspace. My name is Robin Hassler Thompson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, or STAC. We're doing this program to you thanks to support from both Leon County and the City of Tallahassee, who really looked at the importance of everyone in the community understanding what human trafficking is, as well as how they should respond and could respond. This actual training that you'll see today is kind of a hybrid event, and we're really glad to be with you today to do this in person, because it is a training that's available online. It is a training that you can take as an individual on your own time. It's free, it's on demand. But the benefit today is that, again, thanks to our funders, we're able to give you this training and focus specifically on how it's impacting the nonprofit community. So with that, I will talk a little bit more about that, but I'd like to ask, well, first of all, I want to thank UPHS and especially Justin. Thank you for all you've done to make this program come to being, all the advertising and all the promotion and all of the support, and your knowledge and know-how has been great. So thank you, UPHS, and especially thanks, Justin. And I just saw LaShawn pop in there. Hey, LaShawn, thank you. All right, so let me also thank and welcome to you a wonderful colleague, Graciela Marquina. She is a master's. She has a master's of social work degree, and she is our community services advocate. So, Graciela, would you like to say anything?
Sure. I guess I am going to repeat what Robin said. My name is Graciela Marquina. I am the community service advocate here in STAC, and basically what I do is talk to people, victims, survivors, and people in general, trying to reach out and help and assist victims and survivors of labor and human trafficking. Elaborate a plan, different goals, and go from there. We're going to see, or probably we're not, but when we have contact with a survivor, usually people think that this is, that's it. And actually it takes really long time for all the pieces get together and that person, get to bloom and be themselves.
To survive and thrive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, and we'll talk more as we go through the program about our services. I mean, you should know that STAC has a twin mission, and what we do in the community is to provide direct services to survivors of sex and labor trafficking. We have access to direct cash assistance that can help with everything from medication to a new cell phone to helping with transportation. We also have this kind of work we do because there are so many myths and misconceptions about human trafficking in our world. I mean, even last weekend, someone said, wait a minute, human trafficking is going on in Tallahassee and Leon County. I thought that was just a big city thing. So there are so many things. And often people think, for example, that sex trafficking is the only form of trafficking there is, when there's actually more labor trafficking in our world than sex trafficking. But you wouldn't know that if you, looked at what Hollywood generates and what we see in the popular press. So today we're going to work to help with myths and misconceptions. I mentioned earlier how this program has been supported, and it really is a training for all businesses, the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector, to learn about human trafficking. We are thrilled that the City of Tallahassee came forward and said, here's funding for you to make sure that the nonprofit sector in particular is aware of this and knows their special role. So we put our heads together, and we want to really highlight this for you. First, what we're going to do today is we're going to show a video that has produced content for you that is tailored to our area, that is specific and lays the groundwork for human trafficking, for you to understand what is sex trafficking, what is labor trafficking. it has an approach for you as you are in an organization, as you are in a workplace. So what happens as you walk into your office and you walk through a parking lot? What should you do if you hire a security firm to help you monitor or be in your office building? What should you do if you are an employer and you hire an EAP, an employee assistance program? Does that program understand what trafficking is? So there's all these things that you as people who are in a workplace, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, this is training for you. What we do on this, what we're going to do today is after each module, there's an opportunity to take a quiz. So we'll go through the quiz, but what we also want to do is infiltrate that, if you will, with support for you as nonprofits, because this is how you're different. This is a beginning way for us to approach why you're different. Number one, you could be assisting both survivors of human trafficking and traffickers in your work. And what do I mean by that? And Graciela's nodding. She was at the Carney Center, right, Graciela? You identified, in that case, it was men who were traffickers, right?
Right. And they did know who I was. That can happen. And because traffickers really don't have any clear profile, it could be anyone that doesn't have any morals, I guess. And, you know, people are there, and somehow I put it together. And also some residents have already told me things. So I start paying attention and yes.
Yeah. So your view of this issue is so much broader because you're providing those direct services, as well as you are a formal workplace, just like a convenience store or a bank is. You in your work right now already have to have a wide angle look at this, at the context in which an individual lives. What are they facing? What kinds of biases, whether it's economic biases, whether they have had challenges in terms of substance use, whether they are part of an underserved community, whether they've suffered racism and other kinds of systemic oppression. In other words, you are regularly think of the context that an individual lives in. That's not something that a bank will have to do or other businesses. So we're going to talk more about really what your enhanced role is, and that you already know this. Second is this training is one that we've done, and I see Tori is here from 211 Big Bend, and some others, where what we've done with 211, with the Hope community and some others, is we've asked you to take this training, the STACPRO training, and then we will come in, and I want to make this offer to you all as well. We'll come in and do a tailored training to your needs. For example, I've talked to Jonna Coleman about how we're going to go into the street outreach team and talk to them about the specific scenarios that they might encounter in their work. But what STACPRO will do today will help ground you, so everybody will have the same solid understanding. This will take about an hour to go through. We would love to take your questions, your comments during the times that we're doing the quizzes, because we may not have time at the end. So feel free to chat in everything you want to say, questions you have, or just when we go through get to the points of the quizzes, just unmute and ask your questions so we can get there. And as I mentioned at the top, we do have experts on with us today. So I'm thinking about you, Robin Silverman, who's at Whole Child Leon, our partners, and Katrina and others. So Katrina Rollins, who we've worked with, Rivers, who we've worked with today. All right, so with that, I'm going to start the STACPRO training, and I would like you all to be patient with me as I do the tech on this, and thank you so much. Is everybody good? Anybody got any questions to start with? And I'm gonna, both Justin and Graciela are monitoring the chat because I'm gonna do the tech. Oh no, but it'll be fine. Any questions so far?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I am going to share. So we're going to start this training, and we will take a pause when it comes to the first quiz. So here we go.
Hello, my name is Heidi Otway, and I'm the president and partner of Salter Mitchell Public Relations. I'm also the former chair of the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. As a business leader and longtime resident in this community, I was surprised to learn that human trafficking was taking place here and have since made a commitment to raise awareness in the business community to help uproot and end this horrible practice. I first learned about it while serving as chair of the chamber when a local businessman came to me and said he thought he saw evidence of human trafficking near his company. I was shocked and could not believe this was happening in Tallahassee. Unfortunately, it is, and I believe businesses can be front and center by learning the signs of human exploitation and alerting authorities like this businessman did. Human trafficking hurts our community and it hurts businesses. For example, someone posted a comment on a popular tourism app telling others to avoid hotels and parts of our community because they saw trafficking taking place there. We don't want this type of publicity. We also don't want to keep traffickers in business here. So what can you do, and how can your workplace take action to put human traffickers out of business? The first step is to pay attention to possible signs of trafficking and learn how to respond if you suspect a labor or sex trafficking situation. Businesses that do this are safer and limit risks to the public and their own staff, and also demonstrate corporate social responsibility. It's also wise to protect yourself from potential legal liability. As you know, proactive training, monitoring, and reporting protocols can help you to be a stronger, safer, and better business. This course will help you do that. You'll also receive good information about resources where you can get help. Regardless of your industry, business sector, how many employees you have, or your role in the company, I urge you to learn more about human trafficking by taking this course. Once you know and see the signs, you, your coworkers, and your employees will be empowered to help save someone and rid our community of this criminal activity and enterprise that tears families apart, traumatizes children and adults for a lifetime, and damages the reputation of our beloved Tallahassee community and the Big Bend region.
Chapter 1. We would like to thank the Leon County Commission, which determined a need for all businesses and workplaces to know more about human trafficking and to be informed on how to take action. Although much of the information in this training would be relevant to other locales and communities, this training is specifically tailored to Leon County, Florida. Throughout this training, we will show local human trafficking situations and examples, as well as provide local resources. This training will be useful to all workplaces, including hotels, restaurants, the financial sector, retail outlets, offices, for-profit and nonprofit sectors alike, and many more. STAC, a local anti-trafficking nonprofit agency, created this training to help and encourage businesses to invest and understand how to prevent, recognize, and respond to sex and labor trafficking, as well as inform and empower businesses to proactively end human trafficking in Leon County. If, for any reason, you are having technical difficulties while taking the course, please visit stacpro.org/technical support. At the end of this course, you will receive a downloadable course completion certificate.
Hi, my name is Rick Miner, and I'm the Leon County Commissioner for District 3. I'd like to thank you for your interest in this training program. It's important that we all know that human trafficking happens right here in Leon County, not just in the larger cities. And our business community can be the eyes and ears to apprehend human traffickers and to help support survivors of trafficking. Human trafficking, whether it is sex trafficking or labor trafficking, rips at the heart of communities, and it affects everyone, men, women, girls, and boys. Human traffickers target the most vulnerable among us, and we all have a duty to help make our community safe and strong. Being informed about human trafficking is not only the right thing to do for your community, it's also the right thing to do for your business's bottom line. Every organization can do its part, from restaurants and hotels to the financial and retail sectors, to nonprofits and many others. When employees know about this issue and can respond quickly to a possible trafficking situation, they make their workplaces safer for their customers and for their employees. And a safer workplace leads to greater success for your business. The Leon County Commission took the important step of supporting this training opportunity so that all businesses in Leon County can understand and respond to cases of sex trafficking or labor trafficking in our area. And this training is special. Not only is it comprehensive, it is tailored to this area and to the needs and realities that we face here in Leon County every day. A community that is informed and proactively addresses human trafficking is a community that is safer for everyone. Thanks again for doing your part and taking this course.
Module 2, Trafficking in Leon County. Whether open to the public or not, Leon County businesses have a unique and important role in preventing and responding to human trafficking. Employees, managers, and others in the workplace can be the eyes and ears of the community when it comes to both supporting people who are trafficked and helping the justice system to hold traffickers accountable. The goal of this training is to give the thousands of businesses and others in our area information about what to look for, how to recognize signs and patterns of sex or labor trafficking, and what to do if they suspect human trafficking is occurring. Leon County is home to almost 300,000 people and over 8,000 businesses. This includes over 68 hotels and other lodging establishments, about 840 food service and restaurant establishments, historical sites, museums, entertainment and sporting venues, multiple institutions of higher learning, several renowned concert and other performance halls, a vibrant nonprofit sector, and many cultural festivals. Leon County also is home to Florida's capital and state government, has a strong agricultural sector, is host to many local and national retail outlets, manufacturing, 2 regional hospitals, an information and technology sector, construction and engineering firms, the insurance industry, and many more for-profit and nonprofit enterprises. In addition, Leon County has more than 2.4 million visitors annually. Human trafficking does not take place in a vacuum. Traffickers and exploiters of all kinds take advantage of vulnerabilities of individuals, communities, and others right here in Leon County. For example, Leon County's poverty rate is almost 21%, which is about twice the national rate, and Leon County is in the 3rd most food insecure region in Florida. Affordable housing needs are great, and there are too few resources for the people in need of more stable and permanent housing. Major highways and an interstate, I-10, go through this area and can easily move people through the region. Furthermore, natural disasters like hurricanes and the coronavirus pandemic have created even greater vulnerabilities for many. As an employer or employee in Leon County, it is important to understand how businesses and their bottom lines are impacted and harmed by human traffickers. Trafficking fuels criminal activity, is morally unacceptable, and tears apart families and communities. Paying attention in order to recognize and take action in human trafficking situations creates an opportunity for safety, security, and justice in the community. A business assumes safety, financial, legal, and public image risks if human trafficking is ignored. Human trafficking in the workplace puts the public and workforce in danger, poses a serious threat to a brand or company's reputation, and can lead to revenue loss and even civil or corporate liability. It is in every business's best interest to take an active role in recognizing and responding to both sex and labor trafficking. Being informed and prepared against trafficking in the workplace allows for a safer environment with higher employee morale and retention, shows you care for the community as a good corporate citizen and industry leader, and encourages people to do business with you. Additionally, being prepared and educated about human trafficking can help protect your business against liability. After completion of this course, you will know how to recognize the signs of sex and labor trafficking, including trafficker and victim behavior and reactions, common situations and relevant laws, as well as know how to respond and safely react to suspected human trafficking and understand where to find resources to help prevent and fortify your workplace against trafficking. Each section will also provide additional links for you to know more if you want to dig deeper.
Hello, I'm Sheriff Walt McNeil. Sex and labor trafficking is here, right here in Leon County. Human trafficking is a crime of many crimes, like violent crimes and nonviolent crimes like fraud and money laundering and identity theft. Traffickers are notorious for taking advantage of the most vulnerable in our societies. The traffickers can be anyone. They can pose as business persons, they can pose as just about anybody in our society, and they try to take advantage of those circumstances. We need your help. We need every citizen in our community poised to be engaged in trying to identify, as we say, you see something, say something. We in the Leon County Sheriff's Office, we say it another way. We say we have to be all in. And we're counting on you, the citizens of Leon County, to be all in our fight against sex crimes. Human trafficking takes many, many forms. Oftentimes we think of a trafficker as being somebody that you don't know, that you haven't come in contact with. But human trafficking actually takes place in families. It takes place with respect to businesses that are business people that pose as a legitimate business, but is actually trying to engage in sex trafficking. And one of the things we say about that, we all have to be aware and observe. And again, if you see something out there, if it looks like it's not appropriate, take the opportunity to report it. You never know. You might be successful in reporting sex trafficking in our community. See something, say something is most important in our efforts to drive down human trafficking. So if you see something, be all in and say something.
Chapter 2, What is Human Trafficking? Module 1, Chapter Objectives and Key Terms. When you complete this chapter, you will know the practical realities and laws regarding sex and labor trafficking in Florida, understand the local context of human trafficking, be able to assess if sex and labor trafficking might be present, identify possible trafficking victim characteristics and behaviors, and identify key characteristics and behaviors of a trafficker. Before we begin, we are going to cover some key terms. The words victim and survivor of human trafficking can be used interchangeably. It is preferable to use victim to refer to someone currently in a human trafficking situation, and survivor to refer to someone who is no longer being trafficked. Simply put, human trafficking is the exploitation and control of one person by another for profit, power, or commercial gain or benefit. Human trafficking does not require movement or national, state, or local border crossing of any kind. The term human trafficking refers to both sex trafficking and labor trafficking. It is a crime of many crimes and one of the fastest growing globally. Traffickers commit many crimes, ranging from violent crimes against persons like battery and sexual assault, to money laundering and identity theft, to gang activity, drug crimes, shoplifting, and other retail crimes, tax evasion, and federal immigration offenses, as well as specific human trafficking crimes. To be considered labor or sex trafficking in a legal context, a situation must include use of force, fraud, or coercion unless the victim is under the age of 18. Federal and Florida laws do not require a show of force, fraud, or coercion for sex trafficking cases involving minors, but you do need to show force, fraud, or coercion for labor trafficking of minors under federal law. Module 2. Who are the victims and who are the traffickers?
Okay, everyone. We're back now. So that was our intro and our first grounding of information with you. So we'd like to go through now and do a short quiz with you so that you can get through and we can advance to the next one. And this is what you would do if you were doing this online by yourself. You'd go through a quiz, but we're going to do the quiz as a group. So I'd like you to get poised and ready to answer these questions. Okay, the first one is, what types of risk do businesses assume if they ignore human trafficking? Is it A, legal, B, reputation, C, financial, or D, all of the above? So just chat in your answers and let's see how many people are there. That's right. Legal, A, reputation, B, financial, C, D, all of the above. Looks like folks, yeah.
Everyone is saying D, all the above.
That's right. Okay, you're right. And you remember that chart there. Second is, signs of a trafficking victim can be industry specific. Is that true or false? Keep going. All right. The question is true or false. Signs of a victim, trafficking victim can be industry specific.
We have false answers.
And that's actually true. It can be industry specific, and we'll get more information on that in a second. And that's really because sometimes trafficking victims and trafficking takes place in certain industries and requires certain behavior. So we'll talk more about that. Okay, the third question is, human trafficking is the exploitation and control of one person by another for what? A, profit, B, power, C, commercial gain, or D, all of the above?
So we have answers D, which is all the above.
Yeah. Any comment on that?
No comments.
Yeah. Okay. And everybody, if you want to, you can absolutely chime in with any questions or comments. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the program and get a little more information, and then we'll do a couple more questions. In the meantime, I wanted to make sure that everyone who's on today too has registered for this program at STACPRO.org. This will help us get you the certificate and get you the credit for being present and taking the quiz and moving forward. Okay, any questions or comments so far?
No, not that I can see.
Okay, well, let's go back to the program.
Awesome.
In this next section, we are going to discuss who could be a victim or trafficker, how they might behave, and where you might see them. Be sure to note that this is not an exhaustive list of all possible trafficking situations and behaviors. Having just one of these signs may indicate trafficking, but having several does not mean for certain that there is trafficking present. It is imperative to look at the totality of the circumstances and use your best judgment when observing activities and people in the workplace. To begin, signs of a trafficking victim can be industry specific. What you would see in a hotel could be different from what you might see in a bank. Regardless, a victim of trafficking could be anyone. That includes men, women, or children of any age, race, ethnicity, religion, citizenship, or socioeconomic status. Some common examples of people who are trafficked in Leon County include LGBTQIA+ populations, farm workers, domestic violence victims, middle school, high school, and college students, people who work in construction or landscaping, and people who work at restaurants and hotels as housekeeping and janitorial staff. Traffickers target and prey on those who are vulnerable in any way. They purposefully seek out and isolate people from their support systems, such as family, friends, and neighbors. These victims are put in a prison without walls and cannot leave their situation because of threats, violence, coercion, lies and deceit, and abuses of power. Victims are often paid little or nothing and may be disoriented, fearful, unable to speak freely, not in control or possession of any identification, including a license or passport, and may even be injured or malnourished. Victims may also have psychological or emotional attachment to their abuser or trafficker. This is often referred to as trauma bonding. Trauma bonding is a psychological response to abuse. It occurs when the abused person forms an unhealthy relationship with the person who abuses them. The person experiencing abuse may develop sympathy for the abusive person, which becomes reinforced by cycles of abuse and manipulation. Trafficking situations are complex. Victims may be in an unstable and dire economic situation and have even tried to escape by telling people about their exploitation, trafficking, and the abuse, but they were not believed. They might comply with a trafficker's demands in order to protect themselves and loved ones from harm and retaliation. Or they may even believe that they owe a debt to the trafficker and believe they cannot leave a trafficking situation until that debt is paid. They may feel ashamed and see no way out of their situation. Even if they have access to a phone or other people, they could be unable to get help because of the strict and obsessive ways that a trafficker exerts control over them. In addition, victims often do not trust authorities and don't see them as people who can help. This can be the result of having been arrested or treated unfairly by society and its systems. Depending on how long they have been in an abusive or trafficking situation, it is also possible that they have long-term traumatic impacts and might not consider themselves to be a victim at all. There are several other characteristics and examples of victim behavior that are common across many business environments. Victims may lack free will or be unable to leave their job, call their family or friends, or even move about freely. In addition, when you see a victim, they might appear hypervigilant, defensive, subordinate, or even anxious and confused about where they are. They may display fear for the safety of themselves or others, seem scripted when asked a simple question, or have an inconsistent story, wear seasonally inappropriate clothing, and be interrupted by frequent calls and texts during interactions or conversation. In terms of their physical health, they may have visible injuries, lack access to needed medical care, or even show signs of being tortured. A sex or labor trafficking victim may also be at work before their shift begins and stay well after the shift ends. They may ask others for food or steal food, be unable to order or eat meals freely, live at the workplace, or have an unstable living situation or work long hours with minimal to no breaks. In addition, they may lack access to showers or bathrooms and always be closely monitored by someone who controls their movements and interactions with customers. You might also see someone who is physically injured or in pain and yet still continues to work. Popular media, TV, or movies often depict trafficking victims or survivors only as being helpless and weak. However, these same survivors show great strength and the ability to survive in extremely dangerous and traumatic situations. It is important to remember that there is no single description of a trafficking victim, and even if they have a vulnerability, such as needing a job or fleeing an abusive home, they also possess other qualities and characteristics that can help them to survive. Any of the following people can be traffickers: small business owners, pimps, labor subcontractors, neighbors, friends, business professionals, or even family members, which is referred to as familial trafficking. A trafficker's control and exploitation can vary greatly depending on the situation, but still, those in a variety of workplaces or businesses generally might see these common characteristics and behaviors of traffickers. Remember that, as with victims, traffickers can be anyone. There is no single or common profile. Most of the time, a trafficker will appear to be in control and speak or interpret on behalf of a victim. Oftentimes, they will be disrespectful toward the victim, but be charming to management and staff. Rarely do traffickers grab their victims off the street. More often, they build the trust of their victims by meeting their physical and emotional needs. This is called grooming. Younger victims can even be recruited online through social media and gaming apps. Typically, traffickers make promises of a good job, romantic relationships, or a hopeful future while meeting the victim's needs for food, shelter, love, housing, healthcare, legal immigration status, or other support. Traffickers have also been known to show care and concern for the victims or the victim's family in order to lure them into a relationship. They often isolate the victim from familiar people and places and make threats if the victim doesn't comply. By creating dependencies based on specific vulnerabilities like drugs, the trafficker can later demand payback in the form of labor or sex and force people to work in unsafe conditions. After inflicting physical or emotional abuse and getting the person under their control, the trafficker makes it virtually impossible for the victim to leave.
Okay, one of the things that you'll get when you register for this.
Module 3,
let me stop
Types
this.
of Trafficking.
One of the things that will happen if you go ahead and register, which we need you to, on STACPRO.org, is you will have access to all the extra information that accompanies this program. So when you, I kind of feel like the PBS people that come in when you watch shows on PBS, you know. But anyway, so what happens when you register is you'll have, kind of constant access to everything that's here if you want to go back and listen to anything, as well as if you want to look at some of these extra modules. In the modules, we have materials that include survivor testimony, survivor comments about their experience of having been trafficked. Well, you can get lots of information that goes deeper into the module. Okay, now I'd like to take a moment and do a couple more questions before we start module 3. And let's go again, Graciela, and I'm going to leave the screen up and ask you all again to step in the chat and answer these questions. And let's see if we can get more people answering now and that you're there. So first question is, trauma bonding is a psychological response to abuse, true or false?
Okay, let's see.
Let's see what's in there.
True.
True. Yep, you can put T or F. You can do true or false. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All of them are saying true.
Okay, that is absolutely a psychological response to abuse. And that's what we see some people, I certainly saw this in the domestic violence world, right? When people would say, well, why doesn't she just leave? Why don't they just leave? Well, the complexities of trauma bonding are one reason. Okay, this is the legal definition, going back to that. So here's another true and false. If a victim is under the age of 18, this is a victim is a minor. A situation must include the use of force or fraud or coercion to be considered labor or sex trafficking. Must include force, fraud, or coercion. False, 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 false. Very good, very, very good. So all of you remember this too, because a victim who's a minor, is legally not able to consent under the law to sex acts. And remember, those commercial sex acts include more than prostitution, or more than, it could include camming, it could include dancing, it could include porn, could include any of those commercial sex acts. And yes, the law deems that victims who are minors cannot consent, right? Okay, all right. And let me open it up too now briefly to anybody who has any questions or comments. Graciela, do you have any questions or comments coming in? Or if anybody would like to unmute yourselves and chime in on anything here. Is this ringing true? Is this useful?
I don't see any. We have a quiet group.
We have a quiet group, we do. Okay, well, let's continue with the program. And thank you all very much. We'll be back in for another set of quizzes in a minute.
Human trafficking is a human rights violation that affects more than 40 million people worldwide and earns sex and labor traffickers roughly $150 billion annually. Florida is third in the nation when it comes to cases of human trafficking reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, with case reports growing each year. Sex trafficking refers to victims who are exploited for the purposes of any kind of commercial sex, including pornography, prostitution, illicit massage, residential or door-to-door brothels, stripping, dancing, or escort services. Victims of sex trafficking can be any gender, age, or race, and are increasingly recruited and exploited online. Unfortunately, adults who are sex trafficked often report being abused or trafficked as children. There are several signs that a person could be a victim of sex trafficking. These can include being disconnected or disassociated from the world around them, having a drug or alcohol dependency, experiencing mental health disorders like PTSD, or using rough language and terms common to the sex industry. Victims also might have branding or tattoos to show that they are the property of a trafficker, be overly protective of their phones, or have more than one phone, have extreme reactions to certain situations, or wear situationally or seasonally inappropriate clothing. You might see signs of sex trafficking at hotels, in retail establishments, as victims are using restrooms at convenience stores, in stores where traffickers buy victims' cell phones, clothes, shoes, and other personal items, in hair and nail salons, in banks when traffickers are getting victims to open checking or credit card accounts, or in a transportation-connected place where rideshare or taxis, rental cars, buses, or other public transportation is common. Labor trafficking refers to the exploitation and control of a victim for the purposes of any kind of labor or service. Some studies show that, globally, over 60% of all trafficking is labor trafficking, and many goods are made with the forced labor of both children and adults. It can take place in a variety of different work situations, including domestic work, construction, manufacturing, utilities, small businesses, landscaping, agriculture, fishing, door-to-door sales, carnivals, and even janitorial work. Labor trafficking or forced labor could be identified by unsafe working conditions, lack of protective equipment for hazardous work, an employee living on site, refusal of time off, wage theft, or denial of overtime and benefits, or even signs of injury and harassment.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Moore, and I'm the Vice President for Workforce Innovation at Tallahassee Community College. Here at TCC, we have two primary areas of focus. The first one involves equipping our community and students with the skills they need to be successful at whatever path they choose, which could range from degrees, certificates, industry-recognized credentials, or badges. The second area involves employers. We are committed to ensuring that local employers have a skilled and qualified workforce to meet their needs today and in the future. This also includes working with their existing employees to increase their skills. As you can tell, we care passionately about our community and issues that impact them. That's why we're adding our voice to ensure that students are informed about sex and labor trafficking and its impacts. Our approach is all hands on deck to build an awareness about the impact of human trafficking. So why are we doing this? Quite simply, because human trafficking is a reality here in Leon County and the surrounding areas. So to get started, our first priority under the leadership of President Jim Murdaugh will be to focus on our student community. President Murdaugh has made it a priority for all TCC students to know how to spot the signs of human trafficking and understand what it looks like when a sex or labor trafficker is trying to take advantage and lure them or someone they know into a bad situation. TCC will be here to help them know how to be smart and to be safe. Now, taking it a step further, in TCC's Division of Workforce Development, we are committed to building an awareness throughout our business community by providing information, support, and guidance about the latest and best practices. That is why everybody needs to understand the impact of human trafficking, from how to ensure that your workforce is trafficking-free to decisions you can make in your supply chain about trafficking-free goods and services, and lastly, to protecting yourself from legal liability and, frankly, simply doing the right thing. I believe that developing and adopting anti-human trafficking protocols, monitoring, and making sure everyone in the workforce knows what to do if they suspect human trafficking are foundational to a safe and effective business community. And this training is a great first step.
Chapter 3, Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 1, Chapter Objectives and Key Terms. When you complete this chapter, you will be able to recognize signs of human trafficking in key business and workplace settings, know where and how human trafficking might occur on business premises and workspaces, understand the risks posed in human trafficking situations to the public, business staff, and to the suspected human trafficking victim, and prioritize safety for all concerned. The following are examples of industries where trafficking happens: agriculture, hospitality, cleaning services, construction, health and beauty, assisted living, childcare, housekeeping, retail, factories, food packing and processing, fairs and carnivals, arts and entertainment, and commercial sex. Throughout this chapter, we will explore how to recognize trafficking in several of these key industries. Chapter 3, Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 2, Hotels. To begin, it is important to remember that all lodging establishments can be at risk of human trafficking taking place on their premises, budget motels and five-star resorts alike, and it could happen at any of Leon County's lodging establishments. In the hospitality and leisure sector, know that we are not only speaking of sex trafficking. People are often labor trafficked and exploited in plain sight as temporary or seasonal employees working for third-party labor contractors. Different types of trafficking can occur in different parts of a hotel. For example, sex trafficking can happen inside hotel rooms, but establishments may use trafficked labor for housekeeping as part of restaurant staff, serving as bussers, stewards, the kitchen crew, janitorial staff, or pool and grounds maintenance. Keep in mind that traffickers tend to hide victims in plain sight. You cannot tell that someone is being labor trafficked just by looking at them. They could look like any other hotel or restaurant employee. Although Florida law mandates that only front desk and housekeeping staff receive training on human trafficking, it is a best practice for all hotel and restaurant employees and management staff to be trained. These other departments include housekeeping, engineering, bell staff, management, property managers, maintenance, including both pool and grounds, and security. Trafficking indications can be found at the front desk, in guest rooms, hallways, bars and restaurants, or even in parking lots. Front desk, bell staff, and management might see these signs of sex trafficking on hotel premises: a guest having little or no baggage, someone being controlled by another person who pays for the room with cash, or odd requests for certain rooms, such as one overlooking the parking lot, near exits, or isolated. In-room staff might see the following signs of sex trafficking: a do not disturb sign on the door at all times, a guest refusing room service or daily housekeeping entry, paraphernalia connected to the sex industry, drugs or other illegal activity, multiple visitors entering and leaving the room, a person lingering outside the room, or frequent requests for new towels or sheets. Be sure to look out for guests who are appearing afraid, dehydrated or malnourished, fatigued, fearful, or underaged. But on the other hand, traffickers could want their victims to be appealing, so the victim could be well-groomed and attractive. Chapter 3: Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 3: Restaurants.
Hello, my name is Susan Turner. I'm co-owner of Food Glorious Food, which I opened in 1982. During my almost 40 years in the hospitality business, I have encountered many challenges, but maybe nothing like human trafficking, which has begun to infiltrate the entire industry. It is vitally important for those working in restaurants and hotels to know how to respond and recognize when they suspect human trafficking is taking place in their business. Restaurants and food service businesses are the fourth top venue initiating calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And the agriculture industry, where our ingredients for preparing and serving food come from, is the second highest. There are countless opportunities to recognize and respond to labor or sex trafficking if we pay attention to where our ingredients come from, the dishes we serve, staff preparing and serving our food, and even customers eating it. We can learn to recognize the sign. All of us, from the largest restaurant chain to the smallest local cafe and newest fun food truck, can be important watchdogs against the second largest criminal money-making scheme worldwide, which is human trafficking. Restaurants have had a difficult time in the past year, but human trafficking is one of the most important issues of our time, and those of us in this business have a special role to play. We encounter people who might be trafficked, and we can make sure anyone we hire is treated fairly. We can take care to guarantee that our goods and services in the supply chain are trafficking free. Training provides us the information and the tools to know what to do. That is why training like this is so important. Thank you for taking this training, and I encourage everyone in your place of business to do the same. We need to work together to make a difference.
Leon County has over 800 restaurants and eateries that make up a major segment of the local economy. According to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, restaurants are fourth in terms of human trafficking reports. A person being abusive or controlling while at a restaurant, or a guest not knowing where they are, could be signs of sex trafficking. Labor trafficking might be present if the staff member shows signs of physical abuse, doesn't control their own identification documents, is in poor health, fatigued or malnourished, is not doing the job they were promised, is not being paid, or is not being treated as promised, is being closely monitored, seems to have someone controlling their movements, or works long hours with little to no breaks. A trafficked employee could also say they owe a debt, or even be physically injured or in pain, but continue to work. Chapter 3, Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 4, Financial Institutions. Money is at the heart of trafficking and is central to building the law enforcement case against traffickers. Traffickers use all sectors of the financial industry. For instance, they apply for loans, use payroll systems, and look like legitimate businesses, often making their criminal activity hard to detect. Financial records can provide evidence of multiple crimes that are central to trafficking operations, including bank fraud, tax fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. Financial evidence in the form of identifying, freezing, and confiscating assets in criminal and civil actions can also eliminate the need to involve and re-traumatize victims by making them appear for depositions and trials. Tellers, retail staff, and all public-facing employees might see trafficking during client onboarding and engagement, while bank security and others might see trafficking when handling payments and proceeds of crime, evidence of money laundering, or fraud. Banks and investment houses may also be in business relationships with entities connected to a supply chain of goods or services that used forced labor, including interbank borrowing, underwriting, reinsurance, or commodity training. Some common signs of trafficking to look for in the financial sector include using front companies, funnel accounts, anonymous transactions, or legal entities that combine legitimate and illegal activities, such as bars, cantinas, or massage establishments. Evidence of exploitive labor practices, including fraud, wage theft, debt bondage, and recruitment fees owed by an employee, are other common signs of trafficking. Traffickers have also been known to use alternative payment methods with the goal of minimizing in-person transactions and promoting anonymity to avoid detection. Other signs of abuse might include paychecks with low amounts, erratic and infrequent payroll, or employees even transferring funds back to the employer. For labor trafficking, it is important to know that industries that employ large numbers of foreign nationals for low-wage work may use H-2A or H-2B visa types that tie the worker directly to the employer, making these situations ripe for abuse and trafficker coercion. Remember to always know your client and be on the lookout for someone in control, the trafficker, forcing another person, a victim, to open credit and checking accounts and then taking control of them, often ruining the victim's credit history. In addition, look out for a business address near known trafficking hotspots, variations in handwriting on paperwork, including applications, verbal allusions to criminal or suspicious activity, difficulties contacting a client or having invalid work contacts, using false or stolen identity documents, having multiple addresses or a P.O. box, or someone who is controlling multiple accounts using the same email, phone number, or address. Financial transactions can also show signs of potential trafficking. Keep an eye out for transactions that don't match the business model. For example, large cash deposits for restaurants during a pandemic, or credit card payments to multiple hotel rooms on the same night. In addition, traffickers have been known to make exclusively ATM deposits after hours and deposit large cash amounts at ATMs that are located far from their business address. Making deposits in transactions to avoid triggering reporting requirements, avoiding use of identification, using third-party payments that conceal identities, making payments to illicit third-party labor subcontractors, and having no visible payments to governments or regulators for legitimate business fees or taxes are other signs that trafficking may be present. Chapter 3: Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 5: Retail. The retail sector includes shops, convenience stores, gas stations, health and beauty salons, and more. Human trafficking can impact the retail sector in many ways, and it is important to be aware of this. Traffickers and victims may go to stores, salons, or other places together, and the trafficker will likely keep strict control over the victim. An older man or trafficker lavishing a young person or victim with expensive gifts is one possible trafficking scenario. Another instance of a trafficker's criminal scheme could include organized retail theft, such as shoplifting and resale. Businesses should link loss prevention efforts with human trafficking knowledge, as traffickers often force victims to shoplift and commit other retail-related crimes. The traffickers are intentionally removed from the actual crime being committed, that is their MO. This is also known as organized retail crime, or ORC. ORC includes professional shoplifting, cargo theft, and any other organized crime that happens in a retail setting. These crimes fund the human trafficking organization's work. Another example of this is the forced labor of traveling sales crews selling stolen goods door to door. There are also cases where traffickers force victims to steal gift cards and then take advantage of the anonymity of these gift cards and use them to place ads selling sex trafficking victims online or for other nefarious purposes. Here are some common trafficking identifiers you might see in a retail environment. Odd transactions like purchasing multiple burner phones, the purchase of large quantities of sex and pregnancy-related items like condoms, lubricant, pregnancy tests, or Plan B pills, paying for large transactions with cash, or a person controlling the purchaser's transactions and not letting them hold their own money or identification. Traffickers rarely snatch and grab or kidnap from retail parking lots or around stores. Instead, that might be the behavior of a stalker or someone with bad intentions, not a trafficker whose main purpose is to make a profit and whose methods of recruitment take place over time, where they lure the victim in with false promises and build trust or groom them into sex and labor trafficking activity. Public-facing staff need to pay attention and apply knowledge of what human trafficking looks like to what they already know about retail crime. It is important to continue to follow company protocols regarding calls to law enforcement for any suspected criminal activity. Non-public facing management retail staff need to be mindful of organized crime by developing and following protocols and making an effort to train their staff to analyze transactions. They must remember to verify organized crime activity and run vetted criminal data against vendors and guests. In addition, management staff should be ensuring that human trafficking is part of their fraud and theft analysis. Retail managers have the opportunity to identify and work with law enforcement and others to build links between retail crime and human trafficking, drug prosecutions, or other crimes. Chapter 3: Recognizing Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 6: Offices. Office buildings and workplaces can vary widely from multi-story buildings with hundreds of offices to smaller single business entities and small office parks, but trafficking can happen in any of these just the same. Members of the actual workforce on site could be trafficked, or those visiting the offices as clients, customers, or other on-site visitors such as grounds workers could be trafficked. Some of these workers may likely be in lower wage or service positions, and they could be there through third-party labor contractors or suppliers. Examples of this in the office sector include custodial or janitorial staff, landscaping and grounds crews, food service or coffee vendors, runners, or temporary workers. It is important to remember that not all trafficking victims are unskilled workers, uneducated, or do not speak English if they are foreign-born. Victims can be highly skilled at many technical jobs. Private security companies work with many businesses like offices, malls, and other individual retail establishments and are important to the business and private sector by working to detect human trafficking on the premises. Private security firms observe people in retail and office settings as they eat, shop, work, interact, relax on benches, etc. Surveillance training for private security should include how to recognize human trafficking indicators of both victims and traffickers to ensure they can make proper reports to law enforcement and others in the community like STAC if they have questions or want to know more about local services. If your business is hiring a private security firm, consider requiring this knowledge and training in your contract. Also keep in mind that security, even trained professionals, should not directly confront a suspected victim or trafficker. It can be dangerous for the victim, who likely will not cooperate and might run away, especially if they are being closely monitored by the trafficker.
Okay, hi everybody, back again to talk through a couple of quiz questions, and thanks all for hanging in. Just want to remind you too that we're going until 11 o'clock this morning. So let's do the chapter 3 quiz, and I'm going to start again and ask for your help, Graciela, with monitoring the answers. So first question, in which of the following industries can trafficking take place? Agriculture, hospitality, manufacturing, or all of the above?
Yeah.
All of the above. Absolutely. And you know, one of the things that's occurring to me, I just have to do a little pause and say, all of these things are so important to us in the nonprofit world, because you might be seeing someone who comes to you and describes how they opened up a bank account for someone, or their credit is shot, or you know, they worked and never got paid. And these are things you might think, okay, well, we need to do something about that. But when you put the pieces together, when you see how a trafficker controls someone in the retail workplace, for example, you might get more clues about the folks that you're supporting. So this is relevant, even though you're not, running a bank or something. Okay, trafficking situations are clear and obvious, true or false? Trafficking situations are clear and obvious.
Everyone is trying to false.
Yeah, definitely false. They sometimes, right? We work, Graciela, and we sometimes are never 100% sure. We know there's been some kind of exploitation, right? But it might not be trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
A trafficker could be anyone of any age or any activity. Is that true or false? A trafficker could be anyone of any age from any industry. True or false?
True.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's not a single profile for a victim or a trafficker, and that's so important to realize. And which of the following are true of trafficking survivors? A, they believe they owe a debt to the trafficker. B, they are protecting themselves from retaliation. C, they may be unable to get help due to control of a trafficker. D, they do not trust authorities. Or E, all of the above.
Let's see. Everyone is saying E.
Everybody's passing. And thank you all for participating. Really encourage everybody to jump in on this too. All yes. Thank you. Thank you, Shamal, Robin. Yes. Okay, well, let's go back to our program, and we're on the downside, and we'll be concluding again at 11. Thanks, y'all.
Hello, my name is Dr. Maria Pouncy. I'm the Administrator for Instructional Services at PAEC, the Panhandle Area Educational Consortium. We serve 14 small and rural school districts, and my role for the last 30 years has also been working closely with children and families of migrant farm workers throughout this region. I have also been a local businesswoman, former owner of Bumpy Road Farms, started by my husband and now continuing the legacy, are my daughter and son-in-law. Many say we have the best heirloom corn grits anywhere. In my work within our farming communities, I know many migrant and immigrant families who are here picking our tomatoes and other field crops, harvesting mushrooms, and raising poultry and cattle. Most families that we work with are from countries throughout North and Central America and small pockets from South America. Did you know that migrant farm workers were some of the most exploited during the pandemic? Calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline track that these essential workers were taken advantage of, exploited, and trafficked at unprecedented levels. We have also seen that there are local businesses in our agricultural and rural areas, like restaurants and laundromats, who also can take advantage of and traffic farm workers and their families. Immigrants in this country are vulnerable to abuse on many fronts. They may not speak English, they may not be familiar with local ways and customs, and they may be deliberately targeted and exploited by nefarious crew bosses and other labor traffickers. Immigrants are both sex and labor trafficked, and I have a great concern for the women who are working in the fields. Reports of sexual harassment are not unusual, and around the country we know that migrant farm worker women and sometimes children are both sex and labor trafficked. I have been a board member of the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center for years. I'm proud to be part of this organization and fully support its work in our local Big Bend communities. STAC is here to be a resource. Every business and workplace should know that this local agency can help answer questions, can speak with you about a suspected human trafficking situation, and can help provide services and support to survivors of sex or labor trafficking, or anyone who might be at risk. You should know STAC's phone number and website, surviveandthriveadvocacy.org, as well as the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-7888. These two anti-trafficking resources can help every business, workplace, and organization to get any information and support you might need to help prevent and stop human trafficking.
Chapter 4, Responding to Trafficking in the Workplace. Module 1, Chapter Objectives and Key Terms. When you complete this chapter, You will know how to respond to a suspected human trafficking situation safely, gather information regarding possible traffickers and victims, appreciate the complexity of human trafficking situations, and identify where to get help or further information if you have questions on what to do. Module 2: Proper Protocol and Resources. In the workplace, you may notice clear indicators that sex or labor trafficking is happening. You may get an uneasy feeling that makes you fear for someone's safety, or you could just have a gut feeling that something is wrong. No matter what, if you suspect human trafficking, it is important that you don't ignore the situation and safely act as soon as possible. Management has a special role. They should be responsible for knowing the signs of human trafficking, looking at the totality of circumstances, knowing key law enforcement contacts, including the Leon County Sheriff's Office, the Tallahassee Police Department, and the specific names and numbers of whom you should contact at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for human trafficking. Management needs to set an example and explain to employees that everyone in the organization should take this course, follow internal protocols, and be comfortable taking action when they see any suspicious activity. Management staff should develop protocols for responding to human trafficking that include direction on who calls the police if human trafficking is suspected, and selecting a point of contact on staff for internal reports and discussion of human trafficking. Once management develops protocols, they should make sure that all employees know and follow them. These protocols and appropriate emergency contact information should be displayed or readily available to all staff. In addition, managers should make sure their workplace is complying with all health and safety standards and look critically at their recruitment and hiring practices and any third-party labor contractors they work with to ensure that they do not use trafficked or exploited labor. One idea that is easy to implement is to include an anti-human trafficking clause into their contracts that requires all vendors to certify that they are not using trafficked labor and that other entities that your organization hires, such as employee assistance programs, legal or security firms, are also educated and informed about how human trafficking can impact the business and workplace. It is important that employees do not confront a suspected trafficker or victim directly, let them know you are suspicious, or directly offer to help. It is better to take down notes, including names, descriptions, or any other relevant information, and think about whether you witnessed any other crimes, such as child abuse, battery, or even use of a stolen credit card. Then employees can assist management to determine if law enforcement or other local service providers should be contacted. If there is immediate danger or you see an obvious active trafficking situation, you should call 911. Law enforcement tells us that it is important to not directly confront the person involved, either the trafficker or the victim, because this could result in harm or even death to the victim or put you and the entire workplace in danger. Instead, be sure to note the date and time, write down physical descriptions of anyone involved, such as age, race, height, tattoos, scars, or any identifying characteristics, and even copy down the color, make, model, state issuing, and license plate of any vehicle involved to help law enforcement identify the trafficker. If it is not an emergency, you can call a non-emergency line to discuss your options and get help. The Tallahassee Police Department's non-emergency number is listed here, as well as the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's 24/7 hotline. If you suspect fraud or money laundering, call the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. When you report human trafficking to law enforcement, It can help them to more effectively identify trafficking patterns, document suspicious activity, and help lead to greater victim identification. If you are unsure of how to respond to a situation or have questions, you can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. Text them using the number on the screen, or even chat online with a representative at humantraffickinghotline.org. This is a multilingual 24/7 resource for you. All communications are kept confidential and anonymous. You can call STAC, and they can help offer resources for victims. And finally, if you suspect human trafficking of a child or vulnerable adult, call the DCF hotline at 800-96-ABUSE. Under Chapter 39, Section 201 of Florida statutes, we are all mandatory reporters of suspected child abuse. Feel free to pause this video and make note of all of these important contact numbers. While it is important to be on the lookout for potential trafficking situations, remember that noticing one or more indicators does not always mean that trafficking is present. It may only mean that further investigation is needed. There could be a legitimate reason for the situation you are observing that has nothing to do with human trafficking. You must look at the totality of a situation. You may only suspect human trafficking. You may never know for sure. Here are some questions you can consider. Is what I just witnessed an emergency situation, or did it just raise a few red flags? Is there someone I can talk to and walk through a scenario that just happened? Where can I refer someone for assistance? Where can I go to get a policy or protocol for my workplace? If you are asking yourself any of these questions, STAC can help. The Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center, or STAC, offers a variety of local resources as well as human trafficking assistance for businesses. Human trafficking survivors' needs vary greatly and depend on their current circumstances. Someone might have recently left a trafficking situation, may currently be trapped in one, or may be in the grooming process where a trafficker is luring them into a dangerous place of forced labor or sex and be at a high risk of being trafficked or re-trafficked. When looking for services, there is a wide range of survivor support available. STAC is a hub agency and trafficking victim services provider right here in Leon County. They provide case management assistance to all victims of sex and labor trafficking, including youth, adults, foreign nationals, U.S.-born citizens, male, female, and members of the LGBTQIA+ community. STAC helps educate the community, can answer questions regarding sex and labor trafficking situations, and can even help connect a survivor to services and a wide range of support, including safety, housing, transportation, legal assistance, healthcare, clothing, food, education, necessary items like cell phones, and life skills training. As an organization, STAC also provides direct and extensive training and assistance to many businesses and organizations locally. STAC also is a referral agency for the National Human Trafficking Hotline, a number you can also call for help and information. Survivors of trafficking need a range of healing services, assistance, and support, including safe housing, counseling, medical care, life skills, and employment. Survivors may need long-term, restorative care, and there are a variety of local programs that work together to develop short and long-term responses to support survivors to help them move forward. Survivors also may be asked to participate in a criminal investigation and prosecution of their traffickers, which is a very emotionally and physically taxing experience. This is where help from many different agencies and organizations can come in, including law enforcement victim advocates, housing support, counselors, and businesses like, for instance, the financial sector. Traffickers destroy victims' credit history, and they need help building it back, as it is crucial to getting work, housing, cell service, and other basic needs. Survivors also might have had their identity stolen and will need help clearing their name. Other businesses can also assist by providing a survivor with training and a job. If you want to know more about how to help, contact STAC.
Okay, we're going to continue and finish up right now.
Chapter 5, Conclusion. You always have a choice. You could do nothing or take action to help someone in a human trafficking situation. Law enforcement and the abuse hotline agree that it is better to report suspected human trafficking than to just turn away. After taking this course, have you reflected on where you may have witnessed a trafficking situation? Have you identified opportunities to improve and protect your business and customers? Now that you are finished, you should be able to recognize the signs of sex and labor trafficking, including trafficker and victim behavior and common situations, know how to respond and react to human trafficking situations, and understand where to find resources to learn more and help prevent and fortify your community against trafficking. If your business or organization is interested in a more in-depth training opportunity, contact STAC. They can provide live and extensive industry-specific training for your workplace. Thank you for taking this course. This information will help you as an employee, customer, and as a resident of the greater Leon County community. We would like to acknowledge the following supporters for their contributions in making this training a reality and working tirelessly to make our community a better place. Thank you to Leon County government and all others listed here.
Okay, everyone, thanks for hanging in. We're about to wrap up now and so appreciate your time this morning. We started a bit late. By the way, I just put in there, if you haven't registered, I see many of you, the registrations have come in on STACPRO.org. Please go ahead and do that so you will have direct access to all this information going forward, to share, to take advantage of the extra bonus information that's on the website. And you'll be able to, I hope, have more, usefulness there. Please know too that we are available to do supplemental training for your agency and organization to help go deeper with any of the information here. And I want to just conclude, because we are at the end of time, with my thanks again to UPHS and to Justin and Graciela, and ask all of you really quickly, do you have any comments, questions? How did you find the video? Thank you, Katrina. I'm glad you thought it was informative, because I know you are an expert. And if you learned something, that's a big positive to hear. Yeah. Any other comments, Justin, to wrap us up and to conclude?
I just wanted to say thank you, both Graciela and Robin, for your time here and taking the time out to share this information with us. I believe everybody probably learned a wealth of information in regards to human trafficking within the nonprofit workspace and how they can become more vigilant and aware of the things that may be going on around them within their workplaces individually as collective organizations within the community. So I just wanted to, from UPHS and our team here, just thank you all for taking the time out to present this information to our membership and to these folks that have joined us this morning. So we are so grateful again for you all just taking the time out to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me also mention to everyone, next month, September 13th and 21st, we'll be doing this training in person. So if others in your agencies or that you know in the community might want to come out, we'll be at Sunshine Health, a beautiful meeting space, training space. So now we'll be doing that in September. You can go to surviveandthriveadvocacy.org to see information about that. And I know, Justin, you'll be helping us share that out to the world. And thank you all again. And if you haven't registered, please do STACPRO.org, and we'll be getting you your certificates.
Thank you so much.